I think people massively overestimate what expensive cars actually are. We've gotten so used to treating looks like a price tag. You see a car with a clean design, a nice stance, maybe a luxury badge, and your brain just kind of assumes someone spent serious money on it. But the thing is, the used market doesn't really care about that. There are a lot of cars on the road right now that still look like they belong in a much higher tax bracket than they actually do. Not because they're special or rare or secretly collectible, just because the design aged well. So what I want to do here is look at a few of those cars, the ones most people still assume are expensive, even though the price doesn't really back that up anymore. Now, before we get into it, I want to be clear about what does and doesn't count here. First off, used cars only. These have all already taken the depreciation hit. Second, nothing rare, nothing collectible, nothing weird. No one-off trims, no limited production stuff, no if you find the right one scenarios. These are cars you can actually see on the road and realistically find for sale. And I'm not talking about cars that only look good in photos. If a car falls apart the second you see it in person, it doesn't belong here. These all hold up in real life. Parked at the grocery store or sitting next to you at a light. And look, this is not about whether these are the smartest to own or the cheapest to maintain. For now, this is strictly about looks and perception. Cars that most people still assume cost more than they actually do. All right, with that out of the way, let's start with one of my favorites. Now, the Audi A7 did not look 10 years old, not even close. You see one sitting at a light, and your brain does not register this as an older luxury car. It looks like a modern Audi. Low, wide, frameless doors, that fastback roofline. It still looks just so clean. And a big reason for that is that Audi didn't get cute with the design. There's no gimmicks, just good proportions. And because Audi stuck with this general look for a long time, newer cars don't suddenly make the A7 feel outdated. An early A7 still fits in. Most people couldn't tell you what year this car came out if you paid them. They don't see used. They just see something that looks newer than it actually is and assume it costs a lot. Thing is, once these cars got a few years on them, the prices dropped fast. That's just what happens with big luxury cars. And the A7 got caught in that like anything else. So now you got a car that still looks current and high-end, but lives in a completely different price range than people expect. Nothing about it feels cheap. It just doesn't look like it belongs where it's priced. Like, that's the kind of gap that we are looking for in this video. Now, next up, the Volvo S90. And it's one of those cars people don't really clock unless they're right next to it. It's not flashy, it's not sporty, it's just clean, long, really well put together. The proportions are good, the lines are simple, nothing about it really tries too hard. But in person, it comes across a lot better than you'd expect. Like, you see one sitting at a light and it feels calm and solid. Like it was designed by adults for adults. That kind of restraint reads as confidence. Confidence reads as expensive, even if the badge maybe feels a bit off. What makes the S90 interesting is how little that image has changed compared to the price. Like I said, big luxury sedans, they'll always take a hit on the used market. And Volvo, I mean, it doesn't really have the same resale pull as some other brands. So these dropped even further into price ranges that just don't line up with how they look or feel in real life. You're left with a car that still feels upscale, but priced more like an econo box. It's an absolute steal. Okay, now the E-Class works for a completely different kind of reason. This isn't about looking modern or clever. People know what it is. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to sell it. Pull up an E-Class, you'll turn heads. The W212 generation still looks serious in a very Mercedes way. Upright, solid, very conservative. It looks like something that was meant to be comfortable, expensive, and a little formal, which is exactly what people expect an E-Class to be. And that expectation does most of the work here. Fact is, people don't care what year model this is. They see the badge, the size, the shape, and they fill in the rest on their own. It still gets treated like a real luxury car in everyday situations. So this one's for someone who wants that kind of recognition. You're not trying to surprise anyone or make a statement. You want a car that carries weight the second people see it. And for that, the E-Class still delivers. It's a Mazda, I get it. No luxury badge, no status play, nothing that's supposed to impress anyone. And on paper, this is just a normal midsize sedan. But the Mazda 6 from this generation is way better than it has any right to be. Like, Mazda absolutely nailed the design here. The proportions are so nice. The lines are sharp without being overdone. It looks just clean in a way that most cars in this class really don't. Park one next to other midsize sedans from the same era, it immediately stands out. and people notice that, whether they realize it or not. You see a clean Mazda 6 at a light, and your brain doesn't go cheap car, it just goes, ooh, that looks nice. That's kind of the whole point. It's not trying to look German or copy a luxury brand, it looks good on its own terms. And that holds up really well over time. This one is for the person who doesn't care about the badge at all, or maybe even actively avoids it. You want the car people underestimate until they actually see it. Once they do, the reaction is usually something like, damn, that's a Mazda? All right, now the Genesis G80, it only really exists because a company made a very deliberate decision. If you don't know the story, Hyundai didn't just kind of stumble into a luxury sedan. They spun up Genesis as a standalone brand and straight up said, we are going after the established luxury players. This is their big swing at it. And thing is, it doesn't really feel like a first attempt. Like in person, the G8 looks properly expensive. Big, confident proportions, clean shape, real presence. Doesn't rely on styling tricks or nostalgia. It looks like a serious luxury sedan, full stop. And when you pull up next to it and realize it's a Genesis, there is a bit of a second of surprise. Not because it looks out of place, but because it doesn't. Now, what makes it perfect for this list? Well, the product kind of hit faster than the brand did. See, most people don't really have their mindset on a price for Genesis, the same way they would for a Mercedes or BMW. So the car just kind of shows up and looks like it belongs. Let's be clear, this is not a fluke. The G80 works because the car itself is genuinely good, regardless of who built it. Now, I can't end this video without at least mentioning the Jaguar XF. Because yes, let's be clear, this is the risky one. Jaguar reliability is a real concern. If you go down this road, you need to know what you're signing up for. But I mean, look at it. Like low, sleek, unmistakably Jaguar. You see one in traffic and it's just special in a way that most sedans aren't. This one is not about value or logic. It's about liking the way a car looks and being okay with the trade-offs that come with that. You buy it because it speaks to you. Definitely not because it makes the most sense on paper. Just don't confuse it for the smart option, it's the fun one. I have a quick reality check before anyone takes this whole video the wrong way. Just because a car looks expensive doesn't mean it's the smartest thing to own, okay? We are talking about perception, not long-term ownership costs. Some of these cars are gonna cost a ton to maintain. Some will hit you with repair bills that will hurt your soul. You are paying for how a car comes across, not how painless it is to live with. It doesn't make them bad cars by any means. It just means you gotta be honest with yourself about what you're buying. If your goal is the lowest stress ownership experience possible, you probably don't end up with a big luxury sedan at all. You buy something boring, reliable, forgettable, and that's a perfectly valid choice. But if you care about how a car feels when you walk up to it, how it looks sitting at a light, how people instinctively read it, then these cars start to make sense. You just have to go in knowing you're trading a bit of practicality for that experience. Basically, buy with your eyes open. And for the love of God, please get a pre-purchase inspection on these. And don't stretch yourself for a badge or a look that you cannot comfortably afford to maintain. See, that's the difference between enjoying one of these beauties and resenting it about 6 months in. Because what's funny about all this is how little of it is actually about cars. It's really about how we read things, what we assume, what sticks in our heads, how long those ideas hang around, even after reality has changed. With cars especially, once something feels expensive, it kind of just stays that way in people's minds. That's how you end up with cars like these. Stuff that still carries a certain weight in the real world, even though the price tag doesn't really match up anymore. And I hope this video gave you a few solid options to go with. That's what this channel is all about. Some buying advice, some weird stuff, some history, all the parts of the car world that are worth checking out. That sounds like your vibe? Stick around, there's a ton more on the way. Take care everybody, I will see you in the next one.